You are now watching Zach Lesage, the best place to learn about competitive Pokemon TCG. Let's get it! Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, Zach Lesage here. Yo, today we're going to be going over the top 8 deck lists from the Late Night Series number 11. We actually had quite a few unique decks making the top 8 of this event, and I'm more than excited to share these with you today. The lists are going to be in the description. I'll put the link to the event there, just so you can kind of look through the decks, see if there's anything you want to play around with. I'm going to be going over these decks, giving you my opinion on what I think as a professional Pokemon player. Maybe they're going to be awesome decks. Maybe I'm going to have some comments on them. I don't mean to roast any players or anything else like that. This is just more or less constructive criticism or my thoughts in general. But if you made top 8 at my event, I think you did an awesome job, and I really appreciate everyone who plays in these events and kind of monitors them as well. That being said, let's jump into these deck lists and see exactly what's going on. So here we have the results of the Late Night number 11 event. Lots of players came and played into this event. It's absolutely awesome to see all these players play on a normal basis, on a regular basis. So jumping into our number 8 deck, because I don't want to waste anyone's time, we're going to be jumping into Cheech's Dragapult deck. So let's see exactly what we got here. We have access to Dragapult. So they made top 8 at this event. In previous weeks, they actually were a finalist, which is sick. You can check out their grand finals video on the YouTube channel. Dragapult VMAX seems pretty great in general. Like, so far their line seems great. The strategy of this deck is to quickly get out Max Phantom as soon as possible, and then really spread damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon with quick shooting, Max Phantom, disrupt your opponent with Crushing Hammer, Marnie, Path to the Peak, Fan, Tool Jammer. So it's kind of a mid-range control deck. So far, I really like their lineup of Pokemon. If anything, that's the exact same lineup that I've had. I'd almost argue to say that I'd like to see another Marnie in this deck, just to kind of roll with the disruption of everything, but so far so good. I like the count of Crushing Hammers. This is very similar to my current list. They might be able to get rid of a Scoop Up Net or something like that, but overall, like, I think this list screams that it's just a standard solid Dragapult list. So great job on their placement. I think the list is great. Maybe I changed the Marnie, but like, I think it comes down to a lot of personal preference, where some lists might actually cut a Professor's Research or change things up a little bit. I think players can determine what's going on with that. The other list, we have Zach Cohen coming in with Dragapult again in number 7. So those are the 2 Dragapults. They both actually ended up kind of falling into the top 8. I thought with 2 Dragapults, one probably will win the tournament. Dragapult is known for doing very well in my tournaments. We're looking at this list. This list is almost exactly the same. Basically, they play one last Scoop Up Nets and they play one more Quick Ball, which I think is a fine choice. Again, a lot of these lists are going to be very close, like 58 to 59 cards, maybe even a 60 card exact same list. So overall, I think these players really came prepared with standard Dragapult lists, really like geared well towards our metagame, and that ended up doing pretty well overall. So congratulations on making top 8. Let's jump into a new list here. We have Boo69X playing Jolteon. Jolteon is a hot debate here when it comes on the channel. I've always been back and forth on, do I like this deck or do I not like this deck? I think I'm sold on the Evolutions here, peeps. I think Evolutions are sick, and they're pretty well positioned in the metagame. I think in my current power rankings, I have this one at number 6. So overall, a great top 10 deck. If you ain't playing a top 10 deck, why you playing your deck? That's what you got to ask yourself. And maybe you have a legitimate reason. I'm not trying to gatekeep anyone from playing unique decks. So far, this list looks solid. I like the line of Jolteon VMAX. The goal of this deck is to use Max Thunder Rumble and place damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon to maximize on Max Thunder Rumble doing 100 plus 100. Very similar to the Dragapult decks we just saw. Coincidentally, all these decks kind of failing at this tournament in the top 8. Very well overall, not so much in the top 8. But that's okay. Sometimes your tournament has to come to an end. So far, so good. I like the Marnie, Research, Cheryl, Boss's Orders line. I think that seems great. I like the Elemental Badge. I like everything so far about this list. Honestly, I just really like this deck in general. I think it's a well-constructed list. I have no problems with that at all. I think this seems like a pretty standard stand-up list, very similar to the list that Vaughn O'Brien played, my fellow Shuffle Squad teammate, played to the Chill TCG Late Night Invitational for $2,500. So I think it's a solid list over there from Boo69X. Congrats. We have a spell, playing one of my current pet decks, Shadow Rider. I've always really liked Shadow Rider. So far, I think this list looks very good. I like playing the one Hollow Binding Shadow Rider Calyrex V, Calyrex VMAX line. I personally like this deck better with Alchemy VMAX. I've added Mew into my list. I think Mew works out pretty well. I took inspiration from Patrick Wall, who did pretty well at one of my events previously. So I have the Mew in the deck. I'm not sure how I feel about the Galarian Articuno or how I feel about Pumpkaboo. Like, these are cards where Pumpkaboo is pretty good. I think I have Pumpkaboo in my current list. Currently, with like the supporter count and everything, I think this seems like a solid list. I don't really like Suspicious Food Tin. It might be a little bit too suspicious for your boy Zach, but seems solid nonetheless. I mean, I could see it working for sure. Like, it's just one of those cards that I never think that you're going to get on time, and I'd rather just have things that are core fundamental Alchemy VMAX or for core fundamental Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. Overall, I think it's a solid list. So that's everyone who made top 8. We're going to be moving into the top 4. We have Brandon Salazar, previous U.S. national champion, so a very accomplished player playing in the event. And that's really what you're going to see in these events. You're going to see names like Henry Brand, or you're going to see names like Brandon Salazar doing well at these events. I think E-Turn was a solid call with all the Dragapult being seeing success. I like this take on the deck with the heavy Umbreon V-line. In my build of E-Turn right now, I have actually Quillfish, because Quillfish is a single strike Pokemon that you could bench down and abuse with Tower of Darkness. The goal of this deck is to use Eternal Zone, get your bench big, and attack really hard by using Dread End for 270. Pretty basic deck. You have Galarian Moltres to get some energies back from the discard pile. Energy Switch. Overall, I mean, this list looks solid for what it's worth. I'm a huge fan of how this deck could work. I saw this game how they played Single Strike in the top 4, got absolutely bodied by Single Strike. Single Strike is fighting type, this is weak to fighting type, that's how it works. Not sure how I feel about Leopard. I think Leopard V is like a searchable way to get around things. Not sure exactly what we want to be getting around with Leopard's ability. But again, I mean, I think this list looks pretty solid. I might cut a boss's order out of this deck, take a cue from Single Strike, just the Single Strike Urshifu deck, because they only play 2 bosses and 2 Umbreon VMAX. I think that if this deck's playing 3 and 3, why do we need to play 2 more? So there might be a little bit of space to play around with some extra cards like Great Ball and stuff like that. But overall, I think Brandon Salazar did a great job, and I think their list is pretty refreshing. One thing I did not necessarily go over the strategy of Shadow Rider, so I'm going to backtrack for one quick second, in case anyone's newer to the channel. Also, for all of these decks, I've previously covered these decks on my channel, kind of my own take. Either that or I've covered them on the Shuffle Squad's channel, so totally check out both of those channels if you want more of an in-depth, just search up the deck, like search up Zach Lesage, Shadow Rider, Calyrex deck, and I'm sure it will pop up. Hopefully. If not, I'm sure that Tricky Jim or Azul or anyone else who has a big following will gladly show you what the deck does. The goal of this deck is to accelerate energies with your ability of I'm losing track of the Underworld Door. So you want to use Underworld Door. I swear I know what this ability does. I'm just gapping. You attach a psychic energy from your hand, you draw 2 cards, and you can build up a big board state attacking with Max Geist for a lot of energies in play. You also have Adornment as a secondary measure to accelerate energies, but you mainly use the Alchemy VMAX's Gmax Whisk as a way to discharge those energies. So that's what that deck does, just in case anyone's wondering. We're going to be moving on to number 3, Vincent Loyola. So making top 4 for the 2nd week in a row, so that's absolutely sick. Kind of cashing in that Atlas store credits. So here we have a Sylveon deck. Sylveon is based around its max Harmony attack, so for all the different colored types on your bench, you do an additional 30 damage, which I think works out to 150 plus 70 is 220. 220 overall with max Harmony. Sick, right? That's for 3 energies. This deck kind of takes on a Rapid Strike theme of being able to have a bunch of Rapid Strike Pokemon out. Octillery seems like a natural fit, and it's a different typing, so you're able to search out things such as Rapid Strike Energy or even Karina's Focus. Overall, I think that this deck is solid. I feel it plays out a little bit clunky, especially if you just like run into... You could just have the right cards at the wrong time or the wrong cards at the right time, if that makes sense. I feel like this deck is playing 1, 2, 3, 4 stage 1s. and that will lead to some awkward situations. I think that's really what caused Vincent to struggle a little bit in this event. In terms of playing the Blaziken, Sylveon, Rapid Strike, I think that sounds like a great call. I'm actually like kind of taking a step back on the Blaziken VMAX as Water sees more presence and Zacian sees a little bit less presence. I'd almost rather see this being a, how do I put it, just like a different tech. I don't know if there's a better tech. This is more or less me just like speaking out loud, and I don't necessarily think there's a better tech than Blaziken right now, but I wish there was a better tech. And maybe there is. Maybe it's better to play Jolteon VMAX, for example, or maybe there's another Rapid Strike Pokemon that just ends up being a little bit better. So we'll have to see exactly, but overall I think this list looks absolutely spot on. I really like the Leafeon edition. If anything, I don't think there's too much that I would change here at all, so I like it a lot. Great job to Vincent at making top 4 for the second week in a row. Let's see if they can three-peat it. It'd be absolutely sick. We have Renato playing Single Strike Urshifu VMAX. There's also the grand finals match between Lei and Renato here, so if you ever got a chance to check that out, that's also on the channel. I think that this is a great take at Single Strike. Single Strike is really all about setting up your Houndoom, using Single Strike Roar to search through your deck for Single Strike energies, attaching them to either your Umbreons, Single Strike Urshifu V, or the VMAX evolutions of those Pokemon. This deck plays a third Umbreon VMAX. I'm not entirely sure where that extra room came from. I think that there's a couple things that might have got cut out of this deck in order to make things a little bit with the Great Balls and stuff like that. So maybe adding an extra Marnie, cutting down a Great Ball for that, maybe cutting an Umbreon VMAX for an extra energy, or a Tool Scrapper, or a Single Strike Scroll of Scorn. But really you're just trying to bring things up with Dark Signal, choosing whichever attacker is going to be more efficient. Maybe you need to do more damage. That's where Gmax 1 Blow is sick. Single Strike Urshifu V and both Umbreon are great attackers without their VMAXs. And of course Umbreon VMAX is a pretty efficient attacker without any extra, with the extra HP and stuff like that. Single Strike Energy really carries this deck by doing additional damage output. Overall I think the list is pretty solid. I think that I would maybe cut a Great Ball and an Umbreon VMAX, and then maybe find some room for an extra energy and an extra Marnie. I think that'd be really cool. I don't think that I'm necessarily missing anything, because most Single Strike lists look almost exactly the same at this point. So overall, really solid list. Just really my personal preference when it comes down to it, but Great Ball's cool. I think everything else about this list is pretty cool. And we're about to move on to our champion, playing the craziest deck out of all of them, Leibui. Also, if I'm like butchering your name, like, it's one of those things where I don't know if it's Lei or Lee or Le. It's one of those things where, being a French Canadian, I can look at that word and pronounce it like 100 different ways. Same thing with the last name. So if I'm ever butchering it, I apologize in advance. I'm the same way. I get called Zachary Lesage or Lesage or Lesage. And it's one of those things where if I'm butchering your name, by all means, I'm sorry. I've only heard it I've only read it myself, never heard it out loud. So my bad if I am, but they are the champion of our events. That is beyond sick with this new crazy take on Victini VMAX. Just going quad Victini VMAX, 2-2 Victini, evolving into Victini VMAX. That does allow for a lot of space and interesting techs like Kabu. Kabu is a card that a lot of players probably haven't seen. You shuffle your hand into your deck, you draw 4 cards. If your active Pokemon is your only active Pokemon, or your only Pokemon in play, you draw 8 cards as well. So shuffle, draw 8, and then being able to use Fan of Waves, Crushing Hammer, Catcher, Pat to the Peak, Grabbing Energy. Like, it seems like there's a lot of really good cards in this deck. So I think when this deck runs hot, or runs well, it's going to be in a very good position. Of course, if you hit water, you're going to be in a tough spot, because you really have no backup to that. But this deck is really all about using Max Victory, hitting V Pokemon, using Boss's Orders, Pokemon Catcher, and if all else fails, disrupt your opponent with things such as Marnie, Fan of Waves, Crushing Hammer, Path to the Peak, and you can of course gain extra HP with Heat Fire Energy. I did cover this exact deck recently on the channel as well, so if you want to watch that video, learn a little bit more about this archetype, you can. But yeah, it seems like a cool deck. The more that I've played this and played around with it, I think that players can carefully kind of deconstruct this deck and play better against it. So it seems like it's very good as a surprise deck, maybe a little bit of a worse deck now, but it's nice to see Victini back on top, and obviously a brilliant deck choice and brilliant metagame call for this event. But I wouldn't expect anything else, because Lei is a great online player. So overall, this is what we got going on for our top 8 decks. Again, in the description, I will put a link to all these lists. The great thing about the Limitless website, or the Play Limitless website, is you can copy these right to your clipboard, put them right into PTCGO, or likely PTCG Live once that comes out as well. So having access to those lists and being able to plug and play is absolutely insane. But overall, I'm really happy with all these top decks. If you look into the top 16 players, there's a lot of other strong players as well, such as On Guard and Vidor Lugan and Haru. These are players that typically do very well online, so feel free to check out their lists. And I mean, there's also some other great players too, such as Jonathan Patricio, that just fell out of the top 16 into the top 32. So you could always see exactly what your favorite players played at these events, or some stronger players at these events. We do have all the late night series events up. You could sign up while you're in here. So you could just go to the Zach Lesage events tab. It's also a link in the description. You could sign up for all of my events right here. You can see that there's the 12, 13, 14. I got ahead of myself, and we have all the events up, and we even have the invitational going up on December 27th. That date's a little bit to be determined. I know it's right around the holidays for many people, so we'll see exactly where we're at. But right now, I'm pretty hyped about this season, so we'll see how it goes. Well, that's what we got going on for this video today, peeps. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it overall and learning a thing or two about these decks. As always, feel free to participate in my upcoming events, learn more about these things, and feel free to spark a discussion in the comments below. I try to be as open and spreading of knowledge as possible. So if you got anything going on there, I totally love to hear exactly what's going on. Questions, concerns, just love the content, hate the content, whatever's going on. I just try to keep it real all the time. And if you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. We just got past 6,500 subs. We are so close to getting to 7,000. It's unreal. I'd love to get there sooner than later. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and have yourself a great day. Peace out. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. It means the world to me. And my goal with this channel is to spread my love of the game and knowledge with our entire Pokemon TCG community. If you haven't already, help signal boost this video to other Pokemon TCG fans by liking it, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. Hopefully we reach our goals really soon. Check out this recommended video, and have yourself a great day. Thanks.